Benjamin Netanyahu has been facing very, very tough times recently, with no scope to reach a solution with the orthodox elements in his government. Yuli Edelstein, one of his main figures dealing with the Orthodox community, he spoke with some of its leaders, some of the community leaders, and in recent days they said that after the meetings, the divisions became bigger and the gap became greater too. He wasn't closing the gaps. As a matter of fact, he was threatening them with more intense sanctions. So he wasn't only saying, if you don't go to the army, you will be in prison. No, the whole community and the people will be facing sanctions if they do not support those people going to the Israeli army. These sanctions include cutting off the funding, removing any freebies that they have, financial sanctions, and also orders that prevent them from leaving the country. You're talking about a whole package of sanctions, and Benjamin Netanyahu, his elements in the government who are dealing with the situation between the Orthodox community are going full force with them. That left the leaders of the Orthodox community no option but to confirm that that's it, game over with Benjamin Netanyahu. There was another meeting that happened between Edelstein and Netanyahu. It doesn't appear that anything significant came out of it, to a level where the Orthodox members of the coalition now said that they will be voting for a motion pushed by the Israeli opposition to dissolve the government, take the government down. What's Netanyahu going to do? What is Netanyahu going to do? And these reports, of course, came in multiple news websites inside of Israel. Well, Benjamin Netanyahu's attempts in recent, months and just 1.5 years now since the genocide began, was to escalate. For example, Benjamin Netanyahu declared an all-out war against the Lebanese. He went to an all-out war against Lebanon. And also, he started to escalate with other countries too, with other fronts, trying to keep as many fronts open as possible. And now, especially with these reports, he's pushed to the corner. He needs to do something very significant. Like Rabbi Hirsch said, that's it. We're expected to soon leave the government after several meetings he had with members of the Orthodox community. Other reports as well that they're of course going to be supporting the motion to completely withdraw from the government, take the government down as submitted by the Israeli opposition. What does Netanyahu have? What can he do exactly? Benjamin Netanyahu has one option out of this: reach a level of escalation that could potentially stop all of this from going ahead. What is he going to do? Well, he's going to try and find something to escalate with Syria, for example. There was a report of an attack from Syria happening yesterday, and Israel responded. Again, no clarity. Lots of things that are happening in Syria are not clear anyway. The authorities there declared many times that they're not interested in escalation. Lots of things to de-escalate with Israel. And it could be an Israeli move. Of course, there are people who are willing to, of course, carry out attacks against Israel, and every country around Israel has the legitimacy to carry out any preemptive strikes against a genocidal entity run by a psychopathic war criminal. But fact of the matter is, Netanyahu can carry out stunts that would deviate the attention from him. The other option would be for him to try and push the Lebanese resistance into a full-out confrontation. Again, Hezbollah in Lebanon, they are clearly showing that they're not interested in such escalation. As a matter of fact, their senior figures met with the Lebanese president or prime minister, I think, trying to kind of reach a solution towards the arms and what have you. But that isn't stopping Israel from carrying out attacks against Lebanon. Now they attacked the southern suburb of Beirut. They sent a warning. There was a confirmation that there was a warning sent, but these were civilian buildings at the end of the day. So from an Israeli perspective, it's not in the areas that they are looking to officially target. They're asking for the Lebanese to remove any arms that are south to the Litani River. Beirut is north of the Litani River, and that hasn't been included in any of the drafts or agreements or even ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon as mediated by the French and the Americans. But Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to drag more and more people or countries into the war so that he can potentially take away the attention from him. Now, how will this work for Netanyahu if he, for example, manages to get a response? Well, number one, there is no guarantee that Benjamin Netanyahu would get a response. But there are certain things happening, especially between Iran and the United States, that show you that something might go wrong between the United States and Iran, especially with the talks not really going as planned. And as a matter of fact, there were multiple reports that there's this technology being passed to the region from the Americans to the Middle East. Fuses for rockets that Ukraine used to shoot down Russian drones have been transferred to US Air Force units in the Middle East. The decision to divert the fuses Ukraine prepares for more drone missile attacks from Russia is a blow to Ukraine. Is the escalation imminent? This is one report coming from Israel here. Now, of course, this could be a dual move coming from Donald Trump. The recent attack that was described the biggest attack against Russia that came from Ukraine with drones attacking some of its strategic bombers. It did not come after a consultation or an approval from the United States, and that could be a message coming from Donald Trump. However, Donald Trump, if he knows that an Israeli attack against Iran is imminent, he will have to do something to try and also protect himself, because the Iranian ultimatum that was given to Donald Trump, they told him that we will attack any base that of the United States, even if no attack is carried out from that country against us. So if Saudi Arabia, for example, the bases in Saudi Arabia or Qatar or any other location, they do not have any attacks being carried out against them from those areas, Iran will still attack them. Iran told them, we're brothers and we have a brotherly relationship. However, if there is an attack against us, these bases will be under attack. So Donald Trump could potentially be preparing the ground for an escalation that he will be dragged into, despite the fact that he isn't necessarily fully convinced with the idea. As a matter of fact, he spoke with Benjamin Netanyahu multiple times, and he told him that we would prefer for there to be a solution rather than an escalation. Now, from the talks perspective between Iran and the United States, well, they said that they're not continuing now. They're not setting a sixth round of talks so far. Why? Because they are at a situation where the United States is asking Iran to stop enriching uranium. From an Iranian perspective, that is a red line. As a matter of fact, there were multiple statements coming from the Iranian supreme leader and the Iranian foreign minister saying that it's a red line. In this report here, Khamenei slams US proposal, vows to keep enriching uranium. the Iranian foreign minister said, no uranium means no deal. That's confirming that the United States under Trump is still insisting on Iran not enriching uranium, which is, by the way, an Israeli demand. Again, another proof that, well, the lobby is still strong in influencing Benjamin Netanyahu. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that the United States will be attacking, especially with the tensions that have been happening between Israel and Donald Trump, especially the Benjamin Netanyahu government. And as a proof that, well, things can change and that, well, Donald Trump can change his mind, Donald Trump recently had a massive row with Elon Musk to a level where he's threatening to cut his government contracts. Now, Musk was responsible for supporting Donald Trump with approximately $250 million US, which is approximately the same amount that the Zionist lobby supported Trump with. Despite that, things started to escalate. Tensions between him and Donald Trump started to escalate heavily. Elon Musk outright started to criticize some of Trump's moves in relation to taxes. Now, Trump came up on Truth Social, and he said that, well, one of the ways that we can save a lot of money is to cut the support, the government support, for companies that belong to Elon Musk. That will save us. That will save us a lot of headache. As a matter of fact, this was the actual post that Donald Trump had on Truth Social. The easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon Musk's governmental subsidies and contracts. He wrote on his own network. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. This just gets better and better. Musk replied to him, and then he also criticized him even more. This shows you that Donald Trump, although he might have had the support of Elon Musk and hundreds of millions from Elon Musk, look at how things flipped internally. You're talking about American tensions here. Well, something can also happen between him and the Netanyahu government, especially with the fact that he made all of these moves recently, taking people off who are pro-Israelis, of course, not visiting Israel, senior figures canceling their trips to Israel. However, despite all of that, the Netanyahu government, senior figures in the Netanyahu establishment, they still have some sort of a hold and they still have some influence. That's why Donald Trump is still insisting on banning Iran from enriching uranium. Why? Because, well, Donald Trump previously said that enriching uranium wasn't a red line necessarily. He said that he was interested to reach a deal with Iran, and it's not going to be the end of the world if we don't reach a deal, he also said. But the talks and the demands about Iran stopping to enrich uranium started to pop up after the Israelis started to ask the United States to do that. It wasn't necessarily a demand purely from the United States. And the fact that he's saying that now, and the fact that there are these reports of the United States sending certain technology to the region, shows you that there might be an escalation happening there between them and Iran. One very, very clear move too, and this was like blatant, is the recent veto. The United States just vetoed a Security Council resolution demanding a permanent ceasefire inside of the Gaza Strip. What happened? Under Biden, there was a UN Security Council resolution to have a ceasefire in Gaza. after Joe Biden confirmed that Benjamin Netanyahu at the time accepted the ceasefire. What happened now? It's a clear indication that the United States isn't really genuine about all of this. Talks and positivity and Witkoff going back and forth, but you can't even pass a UN Security Council resolution calling for a permanent ceasefire. And by the way, even if this passed, even if the United States did not veto, there is no confirmation that this would have gone ahead anyway, because the Security Council, at the end of the day, they're not enforcing anything. The United Nations, as a matter of fact, they're not enforcing anything. There were already, you had the ICJ calling to stop the genocide, then the ICC issuing arrest warrants. What's the United Nations? The United Nations is an organization without teeth and claws. They're only there to talk about nice things, tell you about human rights and what needs to happen. But when things get really serious and they need to take action, they don't take action. And despite that, the United States went and vetoed the resolution to have a permanent ceasefire inside of the Gaza Strip. These developments that have happened in the past couple of days, primarily the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu is in a lot of trouble and he's about to collapse, basically his government is about to collapse, is a real threat, is a real, there's a real possibility that there might be something happening here. Because Benjamin Netanyahu, firstly, he went into a government that consists of people like Ben Gvir and Smotrich after over a decade of not having them in the coalition when he had an option to, out of pure necessity. No one else was interested in having a coalition with people like Ben Gvir and Smotrich. So he was desperate to a level where he had him in the top figures of the state of Israel, which caused a lot of problems, by the way, and we can still see how much problems it's costing and it's causing Israel. He did that to be a prime minister. Why did he want to be a prime minister? So that he can go ahead and push for a judicial reform. Why did he want to push for a judicial reform? So he cannot be imprisoned. Him insisting on remaining in this position is for him to keep himself safe and run away from justice. Now, with the genocide that happened, the courts in Israel started to flip against Benjamin Netanyahu. The corruption case started to go against him after a Supreme Court ruling, which didn't exist before, by the way. But even the Supreme Court have had enough of Benjamin Netanyahu. Therefore, now he has to go and face trials. But he can still hide. He can still ask for exemptions. He can still, ask for breaks, or he needs to leave or whatever for security briefing or what have you. But if the coalition collapses, Netanyahu will not be the prime minister. If Netanyahu collapses and his government collapses, there will be a call for early elections. Netanyahu would have to immediately call for early elections. In the polls in Israel, Netanyahu isn't as popular as he was before the genocide began. He still has popularity, but not as much as he had before. But the bigger problem is the fact that his main allies do not have the same popularity as before. And every poll published in Israel in the past 3 weeks shows that the opposition is able to form a coalition. That means goodbye Netanyahu. Goodbye Netanyahu means no more exemptions, no more breaks from facing the law, and potentially less protection globally with the arrest warrants that are issued against him. Netanyahu and his top aides have been trying to lobby countries to, give him a break, try to threaten, of course, the ICC to get rid of the arrest warrants. That didn't happen, of course. He still has some safe havens. He visited the United States and he visited Hungary when there were arrest warrants against him. But if he loses the position of prime minister, there's a genuine risk. And this prolonging of this whole genocide was primarily led by Benjamin Netanyahu. It, of course, represented Israel in its true nature. Genocide, ethnic cleansing, all of that is Israel as a state. Since 1948, we have never seen a good version of Israel or of Zionism. But Netanyahu, he took it to a level where it suits him most. And so that he can address all of the things that he wants, his personal interests. He might lose that. He is in a very difficult situation. And because he is in a very difficult situation, there is now more likelihood than ever that he will have an escalation that the United States will find itself forced into with him.